Well, I'm delighted to have Ryan Hanson, who joins me this morning for a chat. Welcome back to Crabble, Ryan. How are you finding it so far?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, really good start to the first game. Yeah, no, yeah, really enjoyed my reappearance back at Crabble. It was really good to kind of see all the fans again and get such a warm welcome from everybody. So yeah, couldn't really get off to a better start, really.
Yeah, of course, Dover's a club that's dear to your heart 'cause you're a Dover boy. Obviously, you grew up in the town and you came through the academy system, didn't you? Um, was it a no-brainer to come back to Dover? Because obviously you wanted to get some game time.
Yeah. So it kind of came about quite quickly, to be honest. The loan aspect, I had a conversation with a gaffer at Tonbridge, and yeah, the option came available to go on loan for the rest of the season, and I had a few offers still to stay in the league in the south for the remainder of the season, but Dover was one of them options, and since I've left Dover 2 years ago now, I've always kind of kept up to date with the results and things like that. And yeah, when I knew that became available as well after speaking to Jake, I jumped at the opportunity. They're in an exciting position at the minute, and yeah, I really want to help them as much as I can. So yeah, that was a great opportunity for me, and yeah, it was a no-brainer.
And it's an incredible contrast, isn't it, to when you left the club? Because, of course, Dover had just been relegated from the National League, and it was that infamous season where, of course, we had the points deduction. And it was very difficult. A lot of youngsters in the team, and obviously finished bottom that year with just the 1 point. But this season, right in the race for a promotion spot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I say, I've kind of jumped in at the business end of the season, really. So, I mean, the lads have obviously got themselves in a really good position at this point, in the playoffs with the game in hand. But yeah, no, it's great to see kind of the club getting back to how it was when I was back watching the team in the early days, kind of thing. Having a good yeah experience with the fans up at Crabble and stuff, and they put in some good performances this season. So yeah, it's nice to be back under better conditions this time, anyway.
Now, tell me what you think of the squad. I mean, obviously, you know a few of the lads, obviously from your previous time. People obviously like Baps and obviously Nick I. So you're familiar with some of the faces there. But what do you feel of the overall strength of the squad?
Yeah, no, I think it's really good. I've only trained twice with the team, and obviously played a match with them. So you kind of still kind of gauging some of the players and their strengths. But from first impressions, it looks like the Gaffers assembled a really good squad for this season, and obviously you can see it by where they're positioned in the league at the minute. But it's nice, obviously, coming back as well a few years later to see the likes of like Baps and Nickage and Wilco, how they progressed as players as well. Because as I say, I think they've done really well this season, and yeah, they've come on a long way since I was last there. So yeah, no, yeah, good impressions to start anyway.
Yeah, and Baps keeps scoring, doesn't he? Scored again at the weekend against Bowers Pitsea. Obviously, George has been in the goals as well, although not recently, but still has a decent total.
Yeah, no, no, I think that's the advantage of the team. Everyone seems to be chipping in as well. It's coming from everyone, so yeah, no shortage of goals. It doesn't look like from the team, which is I think a key part of the success as a team is everyone can score, and I don't score too often, but yeah, me chipping in at the weekend was nice as well. So yeah, no, as I say, everyone's kind of got a key role in this team, and yeah, hopefully it will continue for the rest of the season.
Well, that leads on nicely. I was about to talk about your goal, obviously, because you couldn't have scripted that better, could you? Coming back for your sort of re-debut or debut two, whatever you want to call it, and
Yeah.
to score. Just tell us, the whole feeling of scoring coming back.
Yeah, I mean, to score so early on in the game is really nice. It kind of helps settle everything. And yeah, it just helps your confidence as a player straight away. But like I say, I was speaking to the gaffer when I joined and kind of seeing what role he saw me as in the team. And it's kind of no secret that I'm more of a holding midfielder. I haven't got many kind of goals to my name as of yet, but the role that they see me more as is a box to box midfielder, and hopefully I can kind of chip in at both ends, really. Help out in the defence and also in the attack. So yeah, so that was the plan going into the game, and obviously to get a goal straight away was really nice.
And just talking generally, I mean, you've been following the results, of course. The team's had a difficult run recently since sort of Christmas time, and it was so important, wasn't it, to put down a marker on Saturday and get back to winning ways, and let's try and get on a run again.
Yeah, definitely. I think I know how long a season can be as a player. Um, the lead up to it's almost like kind of two seasons in one, really. You've kind of got the build up to Christmas, and then the back end of the season. So it takes quite a lot out of you as a player, and I always think it helps. I've noticed previously lads coming in a bit of freshening up to the squad can always kind of give the squad a bit of a boost again. Um, but yeah, like as I say, I think the lads are in a good position now, and I think the win from Saturday has really kind of helped the confidence in the team, and hopefully, yeah, we can go and build on it again this Saturday.
What do you think you offer the team? I mean, obviously you mentioned that you're a box to box sort of player. What else do you think you offer the team? And what do you think you can contribute for the running, basically?
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a bit experienced now. I know I'm still quite young, but I've played quite a few games, so I like to think that I can add a bit of experience, especially into the midfield and kind of organisation. So that's kind of off the ball. But I also, yeah, like to think I can get on the ball, dictate play when I can, or try to anyway. And yeah, got good legs, good in the air to get around the pitch and yeah, just help the team be organised really.
Now, right, let's talk about your career. Obviously, you've been playing since a kid. Just tell us where your football journey began and just give us sort of a guided tour, if you like, through those early, young, informative years.
Yeah. So yeah, I started right from the beginning of grassroots. So I started at the age of 4 or 5, I think it was. Down at Dover Rangers was the team. So yeah, so my old man used to run the team up until I left to go to Palace. But yeah, so stayed from Dover Rangers from I think 4 till under 11s, and then went on to Dover Athletic, I believe, under 12s to under 13s. So I had a little bit of taster of kind of being part of the club at that age. And yeah, got moved to Crystal Palace after playing in the Kent League. Got picked up from that. And then yeah, spent the age of 13 to 18 at Crystal Palace. 2 years as a scholar, which was really nice. Kind of first few years of being in a full-time environment, which is what every lad dreams of, kind of thing. And then yeah, like um, didn't get a pro at Palace, moved up to Hull, spent 2 years there as a pro up there, had really good experiences. But that's kind of when the start of my injuries kind of kicked in, which was seemed to be a bit of a common theme, unfortunately, kind of over the last few years. But yeah, had a good 2 years at Hull, was really involved with the first team, got a taste of that environment. And then yeah, that's when I kind of got my first move into senior football. Um, had a brief loan spell down at Dover with Hess at the time. That was the year the famous stopping of the season. So yeah, so played a couple of months down at Dover during that period, and then yeah, returned on a permanent the year after. So yeah, that was kind of my start of the senior football really. Yeah,
I just want to go back to Crystal Palace. I mean, of course, a fantastic academy there, produced lots of good young players. Uh, I mean, who were the sort of players that were coming through when you were there? Do you remember? And what values and lessons did you learn?
yeah. We had a really good team, and obviously played with a lot of good lads growing up. Some that haven't quite made it, and others that have, kind of thing. So we had a really good under 18s team at the time. We won the the league, the under 18s league. Had some good players in there. Probably the standout would be Tyreek Mitchell, who's playing in the first team at the minute. I think he's played over 100 or 150 games now for them in the Premier League. So yeah, played with him over the years. The likes of Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, so yeah, plenty of players that are playing in the EFL now as well. But yeah, learned a lot from that experience.
Yeah, I mean, of course, those two that you mentioned, phenomenal players, and that's why they're playing week in, week out in the Premier League. Can you just give us sort of a flavour of what is it about those two that's made them progress into the Premier League. Of course, they're talented. That goes without saying. But there's more to that, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I say, the key to being a top footballer is consistency. And I think they were always the lads. Yes, like you said, they had unbelievable technical ability, um, and they do things on a pitch that you think like you can do yourself. But like I think the key to being to playing at the top is obviously being a consistent player that the manager wants every week and can trust. And them two just had it every game kind of thing. You knew that they were going to be a solid 8 out of 10 every week, and I think that's the key to being a successful footballer.
Now, of course, when you're at Hull, Grant McCann was in charge. A good, experienced manager at that level in the Championship in League One. What was it like working for him? And just tell us about the whole setup at Hull and who were the players coming through there when you were there.
Yeah, it was a really good setup up at Hull. First time kind of being a long way from home, so yeah, it was good. But yeah, Northern life seemed to suit me somehow. Um, but yeah, no, he was really good with me. I mean, so I signed as a under 23, so I didn't have much involvement with him, but got off to at the very start. But got off to a very good start. I signed a year contract initially, and then after the first 3 months, I think I signed a new 2 year deal. Playing really well in the 23s, and after one of the games that we had at the stadium, that's kind of when I got my first call up to the first team training, which was kind of a big wow factor for me. Seeing obviously all the lads that you see on the TV and training with them was really kind of special. And then yeah, from then on, I was training with them full time with the first team. Um, would like to think I was kind of breaking my way into the squad. Was doing really well with the 23s as well. And then yeah, just picked up a really bad ankle injury that set me back for the rest of the season. It put me out for 6 months, and that was kind of the season finish really. So for me, that was a massive turning point um, up at Hull. But yeah, like listen, the gaffer was really good with me. And as I say, that was my first experience with kind of a first team manager, and he taught me a lot, and the coaching staff were brilliant up there. So yeah, I couldn't complain about my time up at Hull.
Yeah, it's remarkable, really, isn't it, how injuries can play a massive part in someone's career development? Because, as you say, you're right on the cusp there, and then suddenly you get an injury just at the wrong time, and it can set you back, can't it? And yeah, that I hear this story all the time from young footballers. They're almost there, and then they get a bad injury or something else happens. And how did you sort of recover from that? How did you bounce back from that disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of got to just take it on the chin straight away. You know, when you go and see the doctors, and let's say you're going to be out for 6 months with it, it's difficult to hear. But once you get over that kind of initial disappointment, you then start to focus on like doing your other bits well. So like gym work, can I improve as strength in the gym, like fitness wise and stuff like that. Whilst you're off, you kind of set yourself kind of short term targets really. And then yeah, like you say, when you have that first session back out on the grass, it's like this is why I was a footballer again. It's yeah, a great feeling. Um, but yeah, they done everything really well. And to be fair, the injury was quite bad, so to come back in 6 months was a good thing. So yeah, it's disappointing as a footballer. It always feels like it happens at the wrong time. I mean, I know there's never a right time to get injured, but it always seems to be just yeah that little bit too soon. It's really annoying.
But of course, the positive takeout from that was the fact that you were training with, players, professional footballers. Can you just tell me what that was like, and what is the sort of difference in quality and standards between a player at that level? And no disrespect to non-league football at all, because there's lots of good players in non-league football. But what is the difference between that and non-league?
Yeah, I think as you get higher, I think technical abilities obviously improves a lot. First touches are yeah really good, and yeah, decision making is another thing. Making the right decision at the right time. I think that's kind of what separates the leagues as well from each of their own. But yeah, training was yeah it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. You know, like obviously the lads in the 23s and like 18s at Palace are obviously good technical players, but it's a tempo you kind of need to get used to. Otherwise, you kind of yeah, you're struggling a bit in training, and I feel like I adapted really well with it. And yeah, it improves you a lot as a player. And you can see lads that like go into that first team environment, and some of them really thrive in it, and others kind of go by the wayside. But yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed it, and the lads, were brilliant with me. They had quite a few young lads at the time that had come through the academy, so that were then playing consistently in the first team. So they knew what it was like to be in my position, and that always helps as well as a player.
Now, of course, you moved back to Dover, and you moved back again. It's all about timing, isn't it? Sometimes, and I suppose that was the worst possible time in terms of for the club, at least. Obviously, with the whole COVID situation, and that's all been well documented. We don't want to keep banging on about it, but that was a tough period for the club. And of course, that season when you signed permanently after having your loan, that was the famous season with just the 1 point. Can you just tell me, though, despite the difficulties of that season, because it was a young group of players and you were playing week in, week out, what did you learn from that whole experience? And what was it like working with Andy Essentale as well, who's obviously a very experienced coach?
Yeah, listen, he was. I mean, yeah, me and Hess got on so well, and I couldn't think of a better manager to kind of give me that first experience in senior football. So yeah, I mean, listen, it was a really, really difficult season that COVID year, or the year after coming back from COVID, where we had the deduction. I mean, everyone plays football to win games. That's part of every player's ambition. You go out there and you want to win games, and obviously it's well documented that we didn't win enough at the time. And I think when you break down some of the games, actually, we were really unlucky with them. The likes of when we went away to Stockport, we only lost 1-0. We played for 10 men for 80 minutes of the game. That conceded late on. That was obviously unlucky. Notts County, the same thing. Wrexham obviously had the crazy game there as well. So yeah, I feel like when you actually broke down the season game by game, we weren't getting turned over by teams at the time. So in that sense, it wasn't really it wasn't demoralizing, the performances as such, but overall the accumulation of the points and things like that at the end of the season was obviously disappointing, um, collectively as a group to kind of serve that up. But we were always in a difficult position from the start of the season. Obviously with the budget that we had from the fines that were given and stuff like that. Like you said, it's been well documented. But yeah, it was always going to be a tough season. And I think the fans accepted that at the start. And I think it took a little bit of pressure off us as young lads, going out there and playing every week, because like you say, as fans as well, you want to go and watch your team win games, and that's obviously the best experience in football, scoring goals and watching your team win. So obviously we understood that as players, that we weren't giving them that thing to cheer about on a Saturday afternoon. But they were brilliant with all of us, me especially, at the time, and yeah, can't thank them enough for that.
Now, Ryan, I must ask you about that Wrexham game, because that's probably the maddest game in the club's history. Obviously, went 2-0 down and then went 5-2 up and then lost 6-5. Obviously, to a phenomenal Wrexham team. Let's not make any mistake about that, with a huge budget. And, they're looking nailed on almost to get into the Championship this season. So that shows you the sort of resources that they had. Observing that game, what was that like? It's because it was total madness, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolute carnage, and I think that kind of summed up our season really in one game. But yeah, like you say, at the time that league was so competitive as well. Like you said, the how well Wrexham are obviously doing now, like pushing to go up into the Championship. Obviously, you had Stockport in there at the time, that won the league, Notts County and stuff. So yeah, that have some really good teams in there, and so there were some really crazy games that season. But obviously, that stood out by a long way. Um, yeah.
Now, of course, you're sort of a Dover fan as well, aren't you? Of course you are. Does it upset you a little bit where the club have got to? Because we're in the Isthmian League. I feel this club's too big for the Isthmian League. At least should be National League South. And you must have watched some fantastic games as you were growing up at a higher level. First of all, just tell us a little bit about how disappointed you are that they're at this level and that determination to get back up. And at the same time, tell me about some of your memories and some of the games that you remember watching growing up.
Yeah, I think, obviously, to answer your first question, where the club are currently at, yeah, it's disappointing, to see obviously Dover in this league, and obviously coming back on Saturday, you kind of forget well, don't forget, but like you realise how good the facilities are at the club. You know, like obviously the new stand that's built. I mean, the stadium probably holds like 4,500, 5,000, and you think compared to other teams at this level, Dover are way above that. So, and we're even in the south as well. Do you know what I mean? So, um, listen, the club shouldn't be in the league it is, but for whatever reason, with things that have happened in the past, they are where they are. But sometimes you kind of look at it as like it might not be the worst thing, you know, getting a bit of success back in the club, you know, having a good season, getting some wins and having something for the fans to cheer about, you know, at any level, can be positive. So it looks like obviously we've done that so far this season. And it looks like, yeah, we just obviously want to keep it up. But I think to answer that question, yeah, it's disappointing where it is. But like you say, it's sometimes a club kind of needs that rebuild, and I feel like we're doing that currently. Jake and Mike are doing a really good job of it, and obviously the chairman as well. So yeah, so we're obviously hoping to get back to where Dover once was, but yeah, it's they're in a good position. And sorry, the second question, I can't remember that.
Yeah, can you just talk to me about some of the games that you remember watching growing up? What were the sort of standout moments, watching from the terraces?
Yeah, I mean, my first experience at Dover was Hanson the first time he was there, so that would have been like 2004, 5, I think it was. Um, so right from the very start, like the vague memories of that, and then kind of going on to the bigger times, the ones that kind of stick out for me was Dover's FA Cup run when they went away to Gills and beat them. That was actually Hess's first game in charge at Gills, and it so yeah, bantered him a bit when I was back at Dover for that. But yeah, that was really good to going into the away terrace for that game. That was kind of probably the highlight of my Dover fans career anyway. And then obviously you had the cup run of getting through to play Palace at home, and obviously I was at Palace at the time. So yeah, that was an amazing experience seeing players like Zaha and stuff like that playing at Crabble. So yeah, I had some good memories over the years.
Now let's just talk about your own career. So you left Dover, you went to Torquay, you played for Gary Johnson down there, and then you came back to Kent and played for Tonbridge. Just talk us through your two spells there. I mean, obviously you're still a Tonbridge player. What was it like down at Torquay?
Yeah, it's probably the most difficult move I've had in terms of one kind of injuries as such. I had two really bad concussions back to back. It was kind of well documented, and yeah, that was a major setback for me, probably the biggest yet. Struggled to get fit really. Again, after that, you know, it kind of knocked my confidence as a player. Difficult to kind of break back in the team and stuff. So yeah, I think Torquay. Look, it was a good move for me at the time from Dover. It was a really exciting move. Um, and I think that season when I got the move there, they got into the playoffs. Or no, just missed out on the playoffs, and the year before they'd lost in the playoff final. So at the time, it was a really exciting move for myself, signing a 2-year contract there, and was hoping that that was kind of going to be the one to kind of catapult me back into the league again. But it just didn't work out for X reasons. And yeah, when the opportunity came at the end of the season, I wasn't playing at Torquay for whatever reason, and I spoke to Jay down at Tonbridge. They were desperate to get me in for quite a while, and it only kind of yeah come together. I think it was in February, so I had about 10 games left of the season, and you know I had a really good last 10 games. I played all 10 games, kind of got my fitness back again, got my kind of enjoyment back in football, and yeah, it was really good. It was a really good spell at Tunbridge at the end.
Now, looking forward, obviously you're at loan to the end of the season. I'm going to ask you this because every Dover fan's going to want to ask: is there a possibility that you might stay longer? That it might turn into something more permanent?
Yeah, listen, I think ultimately what's on my mind is I'm here till the end of the season. So I know it's obviously a political way of answering the question, but like I really kind of want to do well this season with Dover, you know, and really the goal is everyone has got is to get them up back into the south again. So I think for me that's the kind of thing I want to tackle straight away. And listen, like I've come back to Dover in this league, so there's no reason as to say if we were to stay in the league next year, and and they had some exciting plans. There's no reason to say that I wouldn't stay, but obviously, like every footballer, you kind of got to weigh up every option at the end of every season. And obviously, I couldn't give you an answer now, but it wouldn't be something that I would turn down. So yeah, so that's kind of where my head's at the minute. But yeah, just want to focus on this year really.
And in terms of yourself, I mean, obviously you've been at Palace, you've been at Hull, you've tasted that. You've obviously played in the National League. You must be ambitious to at least reach that, National League standard at least. Do you harbor ambitions to still even become a professional footballer again?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my like going back to part-time football at Tonbridge last year was difficult going back into that again because I kind of had in my head that I wanted to go back into full-time, which I had been at Torquay for the previous 2 years. And yeah, I still believe that I've got that ability to go back up into the National League and into League Two. You know, you see lads playing in them leagues that you think you're kind of better than at a younger age, and believe you are now. So I think every footballer's got that belief in themselves, and I don't think you'd be playing football if you didn't. But yeah, that is the goal for me. Is always been the same. Is I want to play at the highest level possible, and yeah, just want to get there really still.